FoodPolicyUS is pleased to present this educational series highlighting issues and debates in our food system. Join us each week as we hear from leaders and innovators around the table.
The types of food that are being offered at scale aren't the types of food that we should be eating more of. And if you look at the history of farm policy, it started back in the earlier part of the 20th century. Agriculture was a much bigger percentage of the economy, and we had a population that was not eating enough food. In fact, dietary recommendations got started around World War II because we didn't have enough people at the appropriate weight to serve in the military. And now the paradigm has totally changed. We have chronic obesity and chronic weight gain in our society. Productivity has increased significantly, but farm policy fundamentally hasn't changed. And so we're at a stage right now where we need to think about, how do we get people to be making healthier food product choices as opposed to just eating per se, and how do we make things like fresh fruits and vegetables, which we know people aren't eating enough of, particularly low-income people. How do we make those foods more affordable? How do we make the right types of foods more affordable and allow people to have greater access to them?
In recent years, debates over farm policy have focused increasingly on the role of local food systems. In this context, local foods help to promote both healthy eating habits and economic growth.
The interest in local foods as an economic development strategy arises because we have this aging population of U.S. farmers. The average age of farmers in the U.S. now is almost 60 years old. And with manufacturing job losses, we're seeing large population shifts away from rural communities towards urban communities. And so the question that we are confronted with is, what types of opportunities do we see for either young farmers or beginning farmers? And because farming is very capital intensive, it requires a lot of land, it requires equipment, and unless you marry into a farming family or are born into a farming family, there's high barriers for these farmers to get into this type of system. And so we think that if you try to align what we'd like the next generation of farmers to look like, from a food production perspective with the types of food that we should be eating more of, you can potentially have a win-win. The lack of balance between urban and rural populations is a particular impediment for things such as livestock and dairy production, which do need scale economies. We've seen over the last several decades those sectors consolidate to a great degree. We need meat processing facilities, dairy milk bottling facilities. Livestock producers need, essentially a collection of farmers to pool their resources to sell their products, and then to have a market that's sufficiently large so that they can absorb that. And I think that'll be, something that we'd love to see is more competition in these markets going forward, because as the consolidation that has occurred in the livestock sector has been considerable. And again, one of the things that we'd like to see promoting market access is for young and beginning farmers to have better opportunities.
Our food system has evolved into a complex set of interdependent actors over the span of just a few decades. We must recognize the unique considerations of each actor in order to increase overall productivity and sustainability.
We can advocate for all we want on the farm policy and subsidy side, but ultimately it's going to be each consumer making their own individual decisions about what food products they want to buy. And that's, I think, the hope behind more direct marketing channels is that people interacting with a farmer will then stop and think a little bit more about what they're eating or what they're consuming. How was it grown? What were the impacts on the environment? Where did it come from? Just the opportunity to slow down and to appreciate food to a greater degree is certainly one of the hopes and one of the great things that we've seen from local food systems thus far, in a way in which we can hopefully connect with populations, with the population at large, for people that aren't there yet. Well, farmers have a really critical role to play. I think we'd love to see more research done on what are the attributes of markets that get people to make better choices. Is it the attributes of grocery stores when people walk in and see distortive coupons and advertisements that are inducing people to buy junk food? Does that impede people's shopping decisions? So is it the fact that you're in a farmer's market and you're surrounded by, these great fruits and vegetables? Is that what gets people to buy more food? So there's certainly scope for understanding that to a better degree. Having farmers explain to consumers, why this is good for you, the nutritional value of it, ways in which you can cook it. I think all of those things can help go towards people getting a better appreciation of fruits and vegetables.